Today I'm going to be making a soap that I have nicknamed the Senegal Swirl. I will start out with a little background here on how I gave it that name. I have, for about the last 25 or 26 years, volunteered regularly with the USAID Farmer to Farmer program. That is a part of our foreign aid package in which the federal funds send living expertise to various parts of the developing world as volunteer consultants. Um, and the nice thing about that is that then the expertise goes where it's needed. There's not any potential there for, if they just send money, for example, for it being filtered off to some corrupt use. I've done mostly horticultural projects because I am a horticulturist. I am a professor of horticulture. And so I've worked mainly with fruit nurseries and fruit orchard management. I've done a little bit of work with cut flower production. I've done 20 projects now in 12 countries in mainly Asia and Africa. But in 2017, there was a project that was advertised in Senegal, West Africa, asking for someone to teach handmade soap making to small women's groups. So I did that project, and that's where this soap I'm going to make today was originally invented and named. And then since then, I've done another remote project in a different town in Senegal. I was on Zoom and with YouTube videos, and there was a local volunteer in country who actually did the training. And then I just now in 2022 got back from an in-person trip to a different part of Senegal where we again made soap. So the first project in 2017 was in the town of Orkadiéré, which is over near the Mauritania border. I never say that word right. So in case we're somewhat geographically challenged, Senegal is the farthest west country in Africa. And so over here, right near the Mauritania border, is the very tiny town of Orkadiéré. And then when I went back in 22, I stayed and worked over here. Actually, I stayed in Kolak, worked down here in Waknaguna. So this was my group in 2017 that made the soap. And this is the soap that got called the Senegal Swirl. It's a very simple pattern, really. You start out making what is like kind of a broad stripes Taiwan swirl, and then make spirals over that. And I think it goes particularly well with these colors. The white is just natural soap batter. The brown is instant coffee, and the black is activated charcoal. So we were making soap, and the person who was going to pattern this one asked what to do. We started out talking about Taiwan swirls, and I said, well, you can leave it at that, or you can just be an artist and do what you like. So that's what they did, and this is what we ended up with. I think it's quite beautiful. So that was the first trip. The second trip then, that was in June and July of 2022, was over here in Waknaguna, and similar project, different group of people. And so while I was there, we again made the Senegal Swirl. So this is their batch of it. One of the downfalls there is it's very difficult to get fragrancing agents. So both of those batches were made without fragrance. Here's the recipe I'm going to be using today. It's a 68-ounce batch for my wooden mold from Papa's Woodcraft. It uses castor oil, coconut oil, palm oil, that's RSPO sustainable, and high oleic sunflower oil. That should make a reasonably slow moving soap. I don't need a lot of time for this pattern. And then I'm adding sugar and sodium lactate as I normally do. And I'm going to use 72 ounces of fragrance oil. It'll have, just as we did in Senegal, a white base, and then instant coffee and charcoal as the colorants. For fragrance, I'm going to use Original Spice from Nature's Garden. Their description says it doesn't rise, it does accelerate slightly. You get no separation, no discoloration, and strong scent retention. and it is said to emulate the original Old Spice brand aftershave. I used it once before. I don't really remember how it behaved. So I'm going to assume that slight acceleration may be a bit of an exaggeration, and I'm going to try to work fast. My oils are at 98 degrees Fahrenheit. My lye is at 102, so that should be plenty cool enough. I have my fragrance oil here, my coffee solution, and my charcoal. I just want to bring this to a good emulsion, and then I'll transfer some of it to the colors. And I think that's good. So I'm going to use about 1.5 cups in each of the two colors. I've said this in other videos when I've used coffee. People always wonder if when you use coffee it'll smell like coffee. No, it won't. It actually immediately gives off a smell like burning garbage. It's disgusting. I'm smelling it right now. Fortunately, that'll go away by tomorrow, so then there's no scent at all coming from it. So if you want a coffee scented soap, you have to use a coffee fragrance oil. So I'll put my fragrance in these now. So I'm going to keep whisking these until they're a light trace. I will move the camera so you can see the mold better. This is ready to pour. I do like this fragrance, but it's not reminding me of what I remember as being Old Spice. Still, very nice scent. Could be considered masculine, but I think anybody would enjoy using it. So, just as if I were going to do a Taiwan swirl, I'm going to pour these kind of in a serpentine pattern, deep and then shallow. Now this is thickening up really noticeably. Still pours well though. going to use the handle of this spatula to get a very broad stripe. So I'm going to start out with a Taiwan swirl. My mold is full. It's going to run over if I'm not careful here. And then spirals. So that has more of the dark colors and less white on the surface than I would have liked. But I think the coffee will still fade somewhat, so it won't be quite that dark. But I do wish there was a little more white there. As I usually do, I will now spray this with some alcohol to prevent soda ash, and then I will put it in a 77 Celsius, 170 Fahrenheit oven for a couple hours. This is the soap a day later. I like the pattern well enough. As I said earlier, I'd rather it had more white. It does have some little spots where apparently fragrance oil made little oil bubbles, and they were reabsorbed. So right now those little spots are like small solid granules. I can shave those off later. I don't think that'll be a problem. So I'm going to cut and unmold this soap. As I've shown in other videos, this mold has miter cuts in the sides, so you actually cut the soap before you take it out of the mold. And it makes 15 4.5 ounce bars. This is easy to cut, but it's nicely hard today. So there are the 15 bars. So I'll clean these up a little bit and then we can have a look at them individually. Here are some of the bars after I've shaved a bit of the top off to smooth it and remove those little granules. I like even the all dark ones, although I think I prefer the ones that have a little more white on them. But I think they're pretty. And then sides, this was against a mold wall. Whereas this side was cut, there's an end that was cut, side that was cut, and an end that was against the mold wall. So I think I'm pretty pleased with these.